Spacey Sims, and we are back with more London Detective Mysteria. Did I say that in the last part? Sometimes I'm like, did I say the right game? I'm just waiting for the time. I'm like, we're back with more Period Cube, and we start playing this, and someone's like, wait, what? Yeah, and then I put up the, the title of the video and the thumbnail for Ash and Hawk because what the hell? I don't know what's going on anymore. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, I just have to tell you though. I've not finished my Boxu box from December. And I was like, I need to like finish some of these snacks. So I'm like, I'm just gonna grab something like quick. Like I'm just gonna grab a little snack. And the baked white chocolate that came in. And it's funny because you're reading the little description and it's like it's crumbly and crunchy and smooth at the same time. And you're like, that sounds like it's something physically impossible to do. But it's true. It was crumbly and crunchy and smooth and just so fucking delicious. I can't even tell you. And I'm not a fan of white chocolate, but that I was like, this is good. This is fucking good. It's good shit. I'd eat more of that. Well, and then of course, then it was like, too much sugar. But it was just like a little thing, like a little tiny, like little bonbon. You could like stuffed it in your mouth, like the whole thing. I didn't. I took several delicate little bites because I wanted to enjoy it. But I just wanted to share that. It was fucking good. Like, sometimes they have things in there, you're like, oh, it's a cracker. It smells like fish. It tastes like fish. And it's just horrifying. And you're like, no. The second it tastes your tongue, you just spit it right back out. You're like, spit it into the trash. It's terrible. And then you have those little, like, things like that, or like the freaking little golden financier things they have. And you're like, oh, those little cake things. Oh my God, they're so good. They had like little apple ones. I still have a ton of them. I bought like a box or two. Like before Christmas, and I still have them. They're getting a little stale, so they're a little like they're getting a little stale. Like you know how like things when they're fresh, they're like soft, and as they start getting a little bit like closer to the date, they get a little bit more. I don't want to say crunchy. That makes it sound terrible, but they're a little more firm. You're like, oh, they're not as fresh. That's where they are, but they're still fucking good. But they look like tiny little apples, and they're small, and they're little, and they're like apple and cinnamon and cake, and it's delicious. Oh, that's usually like if I'm at work and I'm like, I'm hungry, but before lunch, I'm like, I'm just gonna eat one of those. It's my breakfast. Sad. It's probably like 700 calories, but like in this tiny little like 1 inch size, like fuck it, it's probably like 1.5 inch, but whatever. I don't know what that is in centimeters. I can't do the rest of the world. I gotta be weird. Please, I don't even know. Like I'm like inch. It's like, oh, that's a foot. Okay, like whatever. Anyway. Back where we were. So we just had our adventures with Marple and Angelica and Elisa and blah, 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 all that stuff. So anyway, it was the middle of the night and all of the servants had long gone to sleep. The night was so still that I could hear the owls outside hooting as I sat at my desk. Before me, there were books and my diary. This was my private time, and using it as such had long been a part of my daily routine. Or so was the case until recently. But so much had been happening lately that it had become partially forgotten. Still, now I'd remembered, perhaps I should take some time to myself before calling Pendleton. So, what's it to be this evening? What shall I do? Read a book? I don't like that. What should I do? I don't know! Perhaps I should read a book. I thumbed through a thick picture book that happened to be resting on the table. Well, now we sound like we're 8. Encyclopedia of Toxicology. I'd asked to borrow it from Holmes and Watson after the case with Angelica. So many seemingly innocuous things, like the apricot kernel from today's case, can be used as a weapon. So I wonder if one of those choices, like depending on what you chose, like put you down a path to somebody, you know what I mean? Even though it doesn't give you direct points with Holmes, maybe it gives you points with Holmes because you borrowed it from Holmes. Like, I don't know. I opened to a particularly interesting page and began to read. I do have a guide somewhere. I don't have it open. The only thing I keep open for this is when the characters come up, I use the little page from the actual game page so we can read the little description of the character. But because I don't want to use the guide the first time through. I just kind of want to do what we do. Right now we're pretty much getting Holmes and Watson. Those might be the only 2 we have in the beginning. I don't know, but I'm curious to see like if one of these gives you that route. So, Encyclopedia of Toxicology, an encyclopedia borrowed from Holmes, not for the faint of heart. I'm a bit exhausted. Perhaps I should head straight to bed. My eyes absent-mindedly wandered toward a painting. It was a massive one which hung on the wall of my room. I wonder if you said go to bed, this is what it would do. Like write in your diary and then go to bed is kind of like the second. So if you go to bed, you skip that and you go straight to here. Anyway, we'll find out. You know what's really funny? I see him and I'm like, that looks like Victor from fucking. Looks like CL's father from fucking Black Butler. That's what it reminds me of. It was the only thing that reminded me of what my family was like because it's a painting of them. Look, even then she had Okay, look at this. Look how beautiful she is. And she has normal size eyes. Why can't they do this for us? Even if her eyes were a little bit bigger, it'd be okay. Instead, they do this, and it's creepy as fuck. Beautiful. Creepy as fuck. Beautiful. Creepy as fuck. In case you didn't get that. One more time. Beautiful. Creepy as fuck. There was nothing cute and adorable and anything. This is disturbing. Disturbing. It's fucking disturbing. I don't like it. I don't understand why the game developers do it. I don't know why they can't make us pretty and not creepy as fuck. I don't know. My childhood had almost completely faded away by now. Without it, I doubted I could even recollect my parents' faces. Those are not your parents. You are a fucking doll created by something because the bottom of your eye is like where your fucking nostrils are. That's fucking disturbing. This painting was commissioned when I was only 4 years old. I'm putting this here because I can't stand looking at her face. It's not gonna be a stay there. The same year that happened. I can't click. Okay, there we go. It's such a pleasant, beautiful painting to admire. Every time I set eyes upon it, it helped to convince me a little more than I knew what they were like beyond vague, fading memories. I didn't know what the meaning behind it at the time. I'm sorry, but I hate her fucking eyes. They creep me out. It's scaring me and I don't like it. Go away, creepy-eyed girl. I didn't know the meaning behind it at the time, but now I knew that both of them had Her Majesty's rings bestowed upon them. It's never going to go away. I gotta stare at this stupid face. The room in the painting was the former living room. It had long since burnt down. The mansion I currently resided in was built to resemble the previous one on the outside, but the inside would never quite be the same. This painting symbolized one of my truest, most precious memories. At the same time, it served as a reminder to never stop seeking my mother and father's murderer. Her Majesty said that she had been helped by my mother, and that my mother was a woman who would come to anyone in need. I think such steadfast trust was why she gave the same ring to her that I have now. Well, not the same one, but I became fixed on the ring as I continued to reach further back into my memories. They were vague in many ways, perhaps parts true and others untrue, but who alive can recall their girlhood days with the clarity of the present? I can't remember yesterday, so I agree. Until I was 4 years old, I lived in London with my mother and father. It was a windy night, so windy in fact that I could hear it howling from my bed. Very suddenly I heard a strange sound coming from the next room. I crept outside, opened the door to peek in, and saw everything. Mother and father were still. There, a man pulled a knife from my mother's chest with a wretched squelch. Is it going to be Jack the Ripper's fucking dad? Actual Jack the Ripper? Does he have an actual name? Does Jack the Ripper have an actual name? Oh yeah, Jack Millers. I wonder if his dad's the one that did it. They all have, I mean, Jack the Ripper was a famous serial killer, right? So, I mean, come on. And we have Jack the Ripper. So, I don't know. I felt someone grasp my trembling hand. It was Pendleton, who was the family butler even back then. He never ages. He's a vampire. He covered my mouth to keep me from screaming as he carried me out of the mansion. It wasn't long before it caught fire. All the papers the next morning reported them as having burnt to death in the blaze. But I knew. I saw a man. I saw his knife. I absconded to an old house in the countryside. It was thanks to that land, Pendleton's tireless care, and the kindness of our neighbors that my closed heart gradually healed. I would bore a hole that I would bore a hole at that painting on the wall like bore a hole with my eyes? Okay, I guess. At the painting on the wall every single night when I lived there, thinking why? Oh, why were mother and father gone? Why were they murdered? And every single time I asked myself those things, my desire to go back to London and find the man behind that night grew with a fever. All those things filled me to the point of overflowing as I clung to the pendant my mother bequeathed me upon her death. Family portrait. The only portrait of my family I possess. It once belonged to father. Oh god, are we gonna have to fucking actually use these things to solve things? Because you know that we're gonna die. I'm not gonna be able to do it. To be continued. Oh, so we could have actually done that in the last part, but whoops. The very peculiar boy. Oh, is this gonna be Akechi? He hasn't shown up yet. We've barely seen Jack, but it was the dead of night. A fog permeated the east end of London. The blade carved itself into the woman's chest, or is it now Jack? Okay. In the same moment, her throat was twice spread open. From left to right, skin was slit. So methodical was this act that the surface of her skin remained an unfrayed, perfect line. The guttural scream elicited never reached her lips. Her larynx and vertebrae had been severed. Oh. I'm sorry if you didn't hear it. The woman collapsed, her eyes focused on nothing, fully absorbed with unhinged fear. Blood flowed out of her in an endless stream, smothering her esophagus. When her throat became full, it drained to a pool beside her. The chance for survival was non-existent, but she would not die immediately. The road to death, by design, would be an artless torture. To breathe was in vain. Every breath she inhaled went out the hole in her throat, blood sputtering and thick through her choking, air never reaching her lungs. What she last saw as her consciousness gave way was a dreadful sight. The amused leering of a man she had never met, and a glint of the object of her demise looming from the darkness. That was pretty fucking amazing. Christ, it stinks! Where's that smell coming from? Look here! Some poor girl's fist flat on the curb! Damn drunkard! You think she's conscious? They're just giving it to me. They're just giving it because I gotta read it that way, right? Tain't something I wouldn't know. Perhaps best wake her. Ah! It's really hard to read it when they write the Cockney accent into it, but I love the fact that they did that because it's so much more flair. You know what I'm saying? The hell's this? The two were unsettled by a sight of nightmares. A woman, not a simple drunkard, now drowned in her own blood as her corpse lay on display. What is this? Something's coming, mate! This don't look good! We gotta run for it! I got to do accents. And so they made a hasty retreat, shaken to the bones by the implications which would follow from being found next to a freshly slain victim. Into the embrace of night they fled. I heard footsteps coming from over here. What's this? A woman lying on the street? She's dead! Oh, what a grisly sight! Who could have done this? The sky was a blanket of... Oh, that's me. The sky was a blanket of gray this morning. Still, my routine went on as normal. I had my morning tea, which had been prepared expertly by Pendleton post-breakfast. Today's was Darjeeling. I added plenty of hot milk in it. This game just when she keeps talking about tea just really makes me want to have a cup of tea, sitting here and slurping on our tea instead of drinking my Mio'd water. Strawberry pineapple flavor. Anyway. I sifted through the paper, idly sipping my tea, expecting nothing of note to catch my attention. Except something certainly did catch it, and right away at that. Gruesome Whitechapel murderer strikes again in the East End. It's either Jack or his daddy because... In a clear pattern, the latest victim was a prostitute, and the cause of death involved multiple stab wounds with a bladed weapon. The paper continued to detail the similarities between the murder of this woman, Miss Tabram, and the previously murdered Miss Smith. It's appalling to think about, as someone out there has ended the lives of two people so brutally, and yet they still run free. I'm thinking it's Jack's dad, because he's Jack the Ripper. Even though this is Jack the Ripper, but he's Jack Jr., right? We have the same birthday. That's pretty fucking... I think I've said that before, but it's still... It's almost appalling. You're like, oh, snap. Well, that explains a lot. It is. London has become more dangerous of late. It's only natural for everyone to fear being targeted next. Paranoia has them seeing the criminal from every corner, no matter where they are. I could see myself feeling the same were I walking alone. Oh, well, my lady, I'm certain you know what I'm about to say next. Pendleton seemed concerned. Of course I know. You'd like for me to be careful to and from the academy, even when I feel secure inside my carriage. Not quite. Then you want to cry, my lady, I'm so very frightened of being alone in this big mansion. I beg you to come home straight away. Is that it? Wrong. Then is it, I confess, I'm the one who killed them. I shall be turning myself in directly. My lady, you must be joking. As if there were any chance I would willingly turn myself in. What? And now then, setting all humor aside, wouldn't it be fucking messed up as fuck if he were actually Jack the Ripper's dad or he was actually the murderer? Pendleton, don't do that to me! Actually, that would be great. Like, as if I would willingly turn myself in. Anyway, all joking aside, so I would love it. I'd be like, that's why I love you, because you're the stabby one. I love Pendleton and I want to date him. What's wrong with that? Like, I believe I read something about this where the true ending is kind of like she's not with anyone because they kind of leave it open as if there would be a second game or like a continuation, which would be awesome, but only if they shoehorn in dating Pendleton. I need that in my life because I fucking love him. He's amazing. Like, I love our brother. He's great. Anyway, although he couldn't have killed our parents, and I'm assuming the person that's murdering all these women is the person that murdered our parents, or Jack the Ripper murdered our mom and dad, and Jack Jr. that we know. Like, the OG Ripper was the one that killed our parents, and Jack the Ripper that we could date is murdering all these hoes? I don't know. Like, sorry, working girls, sometimes you just have to, like, I mean, we shouldn't make fun of them for the job that they have, but you know what I'm saying. So, I don't know. Like, whatever. Unless Pendleton really is murdering these bitches, which would just be fucking great, and I'd be excited about that. Anyway. You are far from humorous. I am urging you not to get yourself mixed up in any dangerous criminal investigations. Well, that one is funnier at least. Pray tell, what is a detective without criminals to investigate? Dangerous ones, if I may reiterate. You'd sooner be the next victim than solve the case. That isn't true. You always think the worst. One can never be too careful when both victims pertaining to this case are women. And the picture painted is as follows. The police will ring the mansion and report you've been assaulted. I naturally rush to find you, but regrettably, I'm too late. As I bemoan your loss in a most shameless public display, it is all I can do to hold your jaggedly sliced abdomen together to keep the caramel custard crammed inside from spurting forth. I'm sorry. I fucking can't. I love him so much. And I think it's funnier to me because I'm just reading him so over dramatic. And it's just so much more entertaining. I'm gonna cry. Oh my god. Anyway, whatever could I say to your mother and father should such an event come to pass? Throughout the sky, thunder resounded, and the flash of lightning had made his momentarily darkened countenance especially eerie. Enough! Don't speak such ominous things! Forgive me, my lady. Now, how would you like another serving of your favorite caramel custard? What nerve! I think you know I have suddenly lost my appetite. Regrettable, but in some ways favorable. It means you've heeded my words for today. Do not dare to think you can arrest that heinous criminal on your own. I would never! And from this day, I've moved your curfew to 4 o'clock in the evening from 7 o'clock. No! Should you choose not to abide by this curfew, I'll have to ask that you forfeit your enrollment in the academy. But isn't that too strict? Quite the opposite. From where I stand, it's lenient. My lady, there are still many things you do not know. You've yet to experience firsthand the underlying darkness that pervades the streets of London. And you have? Another thunderclap. Though he was only sorting out tableware, I felt an aura of foreboding from the butler. Pendleton, perhaps I've become too sensitive, but you've really no intention of killing me, do you? Oh, what's brought this on? Worry not. No matter your wealth, I would never dream of killing you. And you're absolutely telling me the truth. Now it is you who is thinking the worst. At any rate, it's time for school. Mind your new curfew, my lady. It is a little, isn't it weird though that she's like, are you sure you're not trying to kill me? Well, why would I do that? Be careful that someone doesn't stab you in the dark. Like, but I'm wondering, should we be concerned? Like, I don't feel intimidated or threatened or afraid of him at all. And he's gonna try to kill us, isn't he? He's like he's out there killing all these people, and it's gonna be fucking great if that happens. I'm gonna be like, this is the best thing ever. Great. I love it. Don't arrest him. I want to marry him. Like, by the time I arrived, the rain subsided, and the serial killing in Whitechapel was the choice topic of every student. Have you read the morning paper? Had me shaken by the end of it. The culprit must be a crafty one if there's not been a single lead on him. Certainly. He must be even if Inspector Lestrade is at a loss. Yes, but the yard's been at a loss plenty of times for me not to be surprised. I just hope there's someone out there who can solve it so the monster doesn't get away. Don't be so pessimistic. Lestrade's a capable man for a Scotland Yard officer. Speaking of which, I hear you and your father are cooperating with them on this investigation. Watson, you might consider making yourself as useful. Well, we're students, and his dad isn't so keen on Holmes being part of such a dangerous case as you might think. I didn't know that was any of her business. Doesn't make it any less true. Count your dad among the rest who don't have a clue who the culprit is. If he can't solve the case, what chance do I have? That isn't something you should say with so much confidence, but I suppose I don't have any leads either. This might be quite a case for everyone to be so stumped. The classroom was rife with discussion. Who could this murderer be? A man or woman? Were they truly so crafty? What was missed? Was there anything to miss? It's Madame Red and Grell, her butler. Jesus, everybody knows this. Fuck. Spoiler alert if you've never watched Black Butler. If you haven't, what the fuck? Like, what the actual fuck? You deserve spoilers. That's like, spoilers for like Star Wars or like Harry Potter. It's been 84 years. You should know this shit. Or like spoilers for Titanic. You should have known that before you went to the movie. I can't believe that happened. Really? I did not see that coming. Really? Seriously? No? Not at all? Didn't know that was gonna happen? You know what I'm saying? Like, anyway. Like, or 2012. That was, 2012 was a rough year with all that world devastation and end of the world shit that that didn't happen. Never mind. I know everybody makes fun of that movie, but I fucking love it anyway. I love disaster movies. I seriously have mental issues. Like, I don't know why. I love those movies. Even if people are like, well, that's not how the continent would break apart. Who cares? Shut up and let people enjoy horrible, traumatic events, okay? Because, like, those movies are great. I love that. And The Day After Tomorrow, I love that shit. I love that shit so much. San Andreas, fucking love that shit. I don't care how fucking terrible the movie is. I don't care how bad I don't give a crap how bad where you're like, I just love it. Like, 2012 when they're flying the plane through and all the buildings are, and I was like, it wouldn't happen like that. I'm like, shh, this is fucking amazing. World devastation movies. I don't know. I'd be the first person to die. Like, zombie apocalypse, I'd be like, dead, burn me. I don't care. I just don't want to be a zombie, and I don't want to have to live like that shit. Because, like, I'm sorry, no matter what they show on TV, we would all be smelly and hairy, and I'm not down with that. No. And we'd all look like shit. No. Mm-mm. Nope. And zombies run it. Nope. Mm-mm. No. This bitch doesn't run. Okay. So I'd be the first one dead. Like, how long would you let? Not very long. There might be a couple people slower than me, and I trip a couple bitches, but I'm just saying at some point I'd go down real fast. So, just one of the first people down. Anyway. Like others, I fell into this dialogue with such interest that I didn't notice a schoolmate trying to shuffle past till he bumped straight into me. Oops, pardon me. Oh. I'd seen this boy several times before, though he had never been introduced, And perhaps that was by intent. A slovenly fringe did little to soften the sharpness of such eyes, and unnaturally deep red and listless as they were in addressing me, I was still intimidated. His height, too, added to my pause. I'd hoped to be less discouraged upon recalling his name. But what was his name? Aren't you. He didn't care to wait, and without answering, continued to his seat. Spacey, something on your mind? Well, I only now realized I haven't asked that boy over there for his name. Over where? Near the window? Miss Whitley, that would be Jack Miller's. Jack Miller's? Ah, so he's the one you meant. He isn't one to socialize. He doesn't talk much, but I've heard he's here through a scholarship, and so he must be a smart bloke. Indeed, the two of you couldn't be more different. We have quiet and passing marks on one hand, and noisy and failing marks on the other. Oh, but I study. A lot, too. It isn't my fault if I'm not made for the books. Holmes was less than impressed by the excuse. He's unique. Nearly all students in attendance are from the West End, you see. But he is from the East End. Is that significant? You might not know, so I hope you don't mind me explaining, Spacey. Watson's like, you don't mind that I don't want to be accused of mansplaining. You're okay with me telling? Okay, I just want to make sure before you get mad at me. Unlike the West End, which is populated by the wealthy, and the East End is reserved for the poor, it's the most dangerous area in London. Oh, no, I wasn't aware. How dare you explain something to me that I didn't know about? Just kidding. I knew the East End by name, but only that. Despite unfavorable circumstances, he still passed the entrance exam and earned himself a scholarship. And that's a difficult thing to accomplish for even those born in affluent families. A monstrous accomplishment for him, to be sure. Yes, now that you've explained it, I think so as well. I peeked again at Jack. He paid no attention to any of us in the classroom, instead staring blankly out the window. Since I know his name now, why not see if we can strike up a chat? Oh dear. Good morning, Jack. I'd like to introduce myself properly, if you don't mind. I'm Spacey Whitley. It's a pleasure to meet you. He was still intimidating. Or could it be that natural nervousness from speaking to someone new? Whichever it could be, I didn't want to let it stop me. I just don't see the two of them together because he's going to be like kind of gruff and scary, and she's like, "Hi! I like bubbles and glitter!" I mean, I like bubbles and glitter too, so she's not too far from me. Spacey's rather quick, isn't she? She's only just learned his name. What a curious little puppy she is. I have to wonder if that's a compliment with the way you say it. I waited. No response. And then finally he spoke. Okay, hold on. Ahem, ahem. He hid the bags under his eyes, but he's still precious. You need something. Look at that. He said words. He's not mute. I was certain Watson and Marple thought they were quieter than they were. Right then, since we never had a chance to speak to one another, I thought today might be a good day to try. I hear you're very smart. Perhaps you might find it fun to talk and teach me some more efficient study methods. And why ask me? It's because you're smart. Oh, so he's got a little Cockney accent himself. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to do it with his voice. I'm gonna have to adjust as I go, because I kind of had a voice in mind for him just looking at his profile, right? And just looking at the picture, and I was like, oh, okay, I was like working through it like before. And I was like, okay, working through them, trying to get some voices together. And then like now with the accent, it's not gonna work, so he's gotta be moody, he's gotta have a dark. He was gonna have a very I was like Watson's got the high pitch kind of like this kind of voice, and then he was gonna have to have the darker kind of like no, that wasn't it either. So see, I lost it completely. But anyway, a funny sight for you, is it? A funny sight for you, is it? Surprise someone from the East End is smart. Huh? I don't know how to do his voice. I want to give him a voice, but then the serial murders. Serial murders. Or did the serial murders catch your fancy? Like, I don't know. That was not right. But anyway, his eyes grew ever sharper. Afraid I don't know anything special you might want to hear. I keep to me own business when I go to and from home. I guess we're just gonna try to read it in the accent that he has in the game, so we'll work on it. No, I didn't mean... Leave off then. Jack leaned closer to my ear, his voice dropping to a whisper. He sounds a little more Irish to me. There's some Irish coming out in the way I'm doing his voice, I don't know. How I got here ain't of your concern, so I should prefer if you not ask more about it. I find it disagreeable. So, well, that works. He's got like an Irish accent apparently now. A weird, not quite Irishy Irish accent. I don't know what's going on, but anyway. Forgive me. Polite but blunt, neutral in tone but sharp enough to pierce me. I felt a frozen hand seize my heart and squeeze it cold. He frightened me. But this was no more in seconds, for he turned back to the window and resumed his gazing. Now I've done it. I've caused him such distress. It was never my intention, but intent was often erased the moment unintent became the dominant lasting thought. A lesson learned as I returned to my seat. I suppose everyone has one or two things they're sensitive about. Understandably so. It's not you, Spacey. He would say the same to any of us. Miss Whitley, you've a habit of prying into another's life, whether they open the door for you or slam it on your nose. Most are too afraid to even address his name, but you charge straight in with no hesitation. I can't help but respect your, well, unique brand of delicacy. That's enough, Holmes. I may be a little insensitive, but I'll have you know... Holmes roused me to defend myself, only for me to be cut off before I could start. Good morning, class. Let's all have a seat so we can get started now. Our teacher ceased all discussion the moment he stepped into the classroom. My schoolmates obliged in a hurry, desks and chairs shuffling about in the process. You've no doubt heard the news, but there's been some discussion relating to a certain serial murder case. I love the fact that this voice is coming out for him because, again, it really does remind me of playing Nameless and Mr. Eugen. What the fuck? And every time I do the voice now, I see that in my head and it just makes me giggle because, like, I only have so many voices, but this is one that I've never really used until that, so this is fun. I don't have that many voices, we know. I use the same ones over and over, but whatever. You're in the detective's course. I understand if it piques your interest, but we instructors are responsible for your safety on behalf of your families. The murders are currently concentrated in Whitechapel, but the culprit remains at large. And so I must ask that you take every precaution on the way to and from the academy. Were I the first to discover your corpse mangled nearly beyond recognition, I just don't know what I could begin to say to your loved ones. I have a feeling that Mr. Mackenzie and Pendleton would get on well. I extend this warning to our young ladies especially. Stay alert. Should you suspect you're being followed, go to a shop or contact an officer. I'll say it as many times as need be. The moment classes end, you're to go home. My teachers are fretting so much over us. I wonder what Jack thinks of the case since it's all where he lives. I dared a tiny glance in his direction. Did he fear the murderer? Had he paid any mind to Mr. Mackenzie's warning? If either of those things were so, he made no indication. Jack seemed to have more interest in nothing. That is staring out the window, than in dangerous somethings. That is, the murders. Oh, Mr. Underwood is the... Okay, hold on. Let's read Jack's profile. So this is him. A man of two sides like Lupin Jr., and yet not a man of two faces, for he remains withdrawn no matter the situation. His mannerisms and background as an East Ender have created a natural barrier with his schoolmates, who all perceive him as different. Unfortunate as there could be those nearby who would sooner think him misunderstood. Or could it be he isn't misunderstood at all? Though his identity remains unknown, he is none other than the Ripper who terrorizes London streets. Okay, so that just ruins it. I think we were supposed to know that. What brings him to commit these atrocities? Curiosity may grant answers, but it may also lead to Lady Whitley's downfall. But he's a romancy partner. Well, that's why I was wondering. I'm like, is he the one that's murdering people? And then you meet him and it's like convenient. But it's a little... But they kind of ruin the mystery when they say, he's the one terrorizing the streets. You're like, so when we get to this point where they're not gonna... Wow, It's not even like, where did the cat go? In the tree. Oh. I wonder whose boy's probably your roommate or the boyfriend or somebody. Pretty easy. Anyway. All right, class. May I turn your attention to these pots? Pharmacology was next. In preparation for our lesson, Mr. Underwood presented to us several pots filled with vibrant flowers. Today's lesson will involve teaching you about this very plant. Would anyone here be familiar with delphiniums? I am. Holmes raised his hand and answered. It is classified as a perennial plant and typically thrives in mountains with cooler temperatures. It's known for its beautiful blue and purple flowers. It contains a toxic alkaloid known as delphine. Delphinine? And this toxin, if ingested, results in diarrhea and vomiting, or death in severe cases. Thank you, Holmes. You shared everything I was going to say. It was my pleasure. Though these many complications exist, many consider delphiniums to be so beautiful that they risk the danger and grow it purely to admire them. Take a closer look and study it as part of our lesson. And should a friend of yours send you these in the future, I want you to think hard and remember what dreadful thing you've done to them. Really, it's quite the surprise when my wife gave them to me on our anniversary with a smile. Your marriage sounds, complex, sir. At any rate, we're to be observing these lovelies. Following that, you're to submit a report on the various ways to make use of their toxin. Make use of their toxin. And we did precisely that as we divided ourselves into teams. Designated students carried their pots to their group stations with a cautious air after hearing what they were capable of doing. A slow, awkward waddle here, a long-held breath and prickled tension there. Oh, slipped my mind. Delphiniums are considered harmless unless you eat them. And now the toxin can enter your body through cuts on your hands. As a precaution, I want you to wear gloves when carrying pots or touching its petals. Lupin, you're carrying a pot, but where are your gloves? My gloves? How could I have forgotten them? I'll go dropping it now. Quite fortunately, the pot was secured by Watson just before it was to crash onto the floor. Lupin, Watson, the petals didn't touch you, did they? All right, the pot is too. I'm so sorry. How could I have treated such a pretty flower so poorly? God, I nearly killed it. Is the flower the only part you feel badly about? Oh, and of course the same to you, Watson. When all chaos from gathering our materials was settled, each of us went to work monitoring the various features of our chosen plant. The flowers themselves are so pretty. I wouldn't have known they carry a deadly toxin. I diligently started scribbling the most distinguishing features of the plant before looking upwards and catching sight of Jack yet again. He was observing the same plant as I was. There was a sort of distance in how he observed. I was close, eyes focused, lips bitten, nose folded at the bridge as the petals received a delicate prodding. And he? None of these things. There was no scowl from this morning, but his expression lacked interest as well. All I could read was that he stared and stared blankly. All that watching and he's not taken a single note. I took a moment to consider if the incident from this morning meant it was best not to approach him. And I'm gonna do it anyway. Oh, what could it hurt? Pardon me, Jack? My concern was greater, but still I approached. You again. He frightened me for a second time. The wall he built with his stare felt impenetrable upon first greeting, to be sure. You shan't keep me waiting if you got something to say. I'm not going to be able to ever do his voice right. It's going to be fucked up. Oh, God. But what do I say at a time like this? I'm sorry for this morning. I wanted to give a proper apology for this morning. What for? What for? What for? What for? Okay, that's good. Anyway, I fear I was too insensitive when we've only just met. Will you forgive me? It was never my intention to speak ill of you, really. Someone noble wants to take pity on the pauper. Absolutely nothing of the sort. I'd much rather you not strain yourself with empty words on my own account. I don't need 'em. On me own account! Oh, yeah, there we go. Yes, he's the leprechaun. Fun. I thought I told you to leave off. I love the fact that the accent just came out with him because of the way they write his text. It's great. And there it was. Short, blunt. It lacked so much drama in its clarity that I didn't know how to excuse myself. I'm wondering if we should have said, you haven't taken any notes. to get points with him, but it doesn't really matter. We're just playing this by ear. Whoa! No, I didn't mean to do that. It was not the floor which I noticed then, but again Jack. His hand possessed several ill-dressed cuts. The wounds were fresh. The skin which made to heal already, each one was speckled with dried blood, half picked at their edges, and a sore sight no matter how one looked at them. Whenever I get so much as a scratch, Pendleton is right there to clean and bind it. No. He's going to touch the plant with those awful cuts? But the toxin! Don't touch it with your bare hands! I reached out to block him. Rather than express any thanks, he returned my efforts with a snarl. What is it now? Upon closer inspection, I spotted that his cuff was stained with blood. Some of those injuries had yet to even close. Weren't you listening to Mr. Underwood? That toxin could enter your body with just a single touch if you have any open wounds. It's all right. I ain't worried. Jack motioned to touch the flower. Don't! What if you were to lose your hand? All right. If it shuts you up. Finally, he may have put up a bit of a fight, but the win was mine, and it did my heart good. You ought to spend less time nosing about in someone else's affairs and more time writing better notes for yourself. Whether he was genuinely so irritated with me or could not be bothered, the result was the same. He went to return to his seat. But those cuts, those terrible cuts, the potential of toxin wasn't the only issue with them. The thought of leaving them untreated would nag at me till I went mad, I was sure. Jack, wait. Here. Look, he's like, I got black nail polish. That seems a little out of place for the time, but... I bound his hand with my white handkerchief. Oh, it's this. It's only temporary, so promise me that you'll see yourself to the infirmary, all right? I strengthened the knot at the top, but not too tight so as to irritate his injuries. It did look a touch unsightly, but it was better than nothing to prevent all those scratches from getting worse. He looks crazed. Jack seemed to think it more than unsightly. He observed it with all the disdain of an object too foreign to comprehend. The scarlet eyes of his squinted in scrutiny. You've lived a charmed life. I ain't so wuss of that. Wait. They ain't so wuss off that They ain't so wuss off. Is he saying they? His hands are scratched? I don't know. Anyway, I don't know. Hold on. They ain't so wuss off that a little dressing will make a difference. Will make a difference? Will make a difference? Make a difference? Not make? Okay. Or is this just guilt from earlier? Should hope not. It isn't like that. I can't ignore something like this. If it's between taking action or doing nothing at all, then I choose action. So it's a charmed life for a charming gal, is it? Don't make fun of me. Why did you let your injuries get this bad in the first place? You ought to take more care of yourself. It's all the same to me, but have you... Jack? Never mind. Unless our conversation was ended. I wonder what he was going to say. I believe you've had enough time to observe. If everyone would return to their seats, please. I continued to worry, but what good did worrying do when there was nothing to be done about it? There was no need for further resistance on my part with Jack, so I simply did as instructed. I couldn't resist a final peek in his direction, however, and there he was, gazing out the window once more. I was on my way to the classroom once the lesson was over when Watson approached. Spacey, you'd best stay away from him. What do you mean? Oh, who do you mean? Not Jack. Yes, Jack. It may not be right to say this, but they say the East Enders aren't the most fond of the nobility. You can try to be friendly to him, but there are some who will hate you just for being born into wealth. It's the same for the police and the royal family. If someone hates something blindly, a little kindness won't be enough to change their mind. You take care, all right? Not you two. We're schoolmates, aren't we? I know, it really isn't right, but I'd rather you be safe. And I appreciate that, but he does not strike me as a bad person. Jack never tried to shake away my hand when I wrapped the handkerchief. He was a man of cruel words and a man potentially kind in action. I can agree that he's a bit blunt, at least. You call it a bit blunt? I know you're a lovely girl, but I hope you know the world isn't all champagne. It's not? Fuck. So depressed. Watson can only smile bitterly. Jack had not moved all morning, and he took no interest in his surroundings. I was curious of his expression. if it was stripped of emotion or in deep thought, but that unruly hair made it difficult to see his face. He could have done with a thorough cut and brushing. I'll admit that he isn't the most approachable sort, so I see why people give him a wide berth. But still, Jack being different to us means we can learn something new from him. I want to get to know him. I want to understand him. For a third time today, I chose to approach him. Okay, he's snoring. Okay, whatever. I'm not going to make a snoring noise. It cannot be. He's sleeping? He was so passive that I couldn't tell when he was awake and when he slept. But he's finished taking proper notes. When did he have the time? Snoring again. Okay. He's very queer. I know you mean odd. It just comes off slightly wrong when you're like queer. I get we're using old-timey words, but... Although the day was done for most, Holmes and Watson were plenty hungry for after-school investigating. The life of the detective was a lively one when new murders were on the calendar. We'll be off now. The Scotland Yard has requested our advice on the matter. I don't want to keep the sergeant waiting long. Let's go. If the Yard means to consult with you, then isn't it regards to the East End murders? It is. The police have been scrambling about desperately for even a single clue. And we're gonna... Okay. Oh, I'm sure. The case is a source of great anxiety for London, and they can't very well have nothing to share. I feel like we keep doing a new, mystery in every chapter, but we can't possibly wrap this mystery up in this chapter. You know what I'm saying? Oh, Miss Whitley. In some unusual twist, Holmes appealed to me directly, despite his pressing timeline. Oh, what do you make of this bizarre case? Knowing the danger, does it still interest you? Does it matter when we were the ones they rang up? It does not, and yet curiosity still has the best of me. How shall I answer? I'm dripping with curiosity. That's actually the answer. It's best to wait and see. No, I'm dripping with curiosity. I'd say I'm very interested in the case. We're going to be boning Holmes first, just in case you weren't aware of that. Pretty fucking sure. Anyway. Are you now? A serial killer runs rampant in the slums, and only women have thus far been targeted. Oh, what a fear. What of it, really? If I were to arrest the killer sooner than later, no more women would be targeted. Fear is not a factor. That is true, if you have the skill for it. Speaking plainly, it's still a bad idea to have her with us. And not for your lack of skill, Spacey, but think of the danger. I stood between two men of two strong minds. One wished to challenge me, whilst the other wished to keep me safe. Holmes, shouldn't we be off then? We should. Till tomorrow then, Spacey. Go home straight away, alright? Of course, I'll do just that. Pendleton would fucking murder me, and he might actually murder me anyway, I don't know. I bid them a quick farewell as they retired from the classroom. If I were a boy, would they have allowed me to investigate without question? My contemplations continued in the form of a small sigh that matched my injured expression. Chop off your hair and pretend to be a boy. It'll make you less derpy, too. Hello there. A sudden voice from behind me roused me from my thoughts. Jack? That's something very well meaning of you. I couldn't understand if he was impressed or soured by my reactions as he raised an eyebrow. How long has he been behind me? I didn't know he was still here. My next exclamation came as I spotted Jack's hand. Well, so you did go to the infirmary. I could see the difference. My handkerchief wrapping was a crude solution, if one were to speak of it politely. And now my solution was dismissed in favor of clean cuts held securely in a correct bandage. To which I can only say, excellent. How pleased I was that he listened and tended to his injuries. Never again. Can't take the smell of antiseptic. Oh, nonsense. If you can't take the smell, then you can take care not to get injured. Jack looked away in a certain embarrassed manner that said he had no counter. It could have been that I was the victor in this back and forth, and were he injured again, he would take my advice first thing. Yet even if he did not, he listened this time, and that alone did well to lift my heart. You know. Yes? This time he was not intimidating, but rather awkward. Very awkward indeed, with the distinct flicker of a question in his eyes above a blush that pressed him not to ask. Never mind. You're sure? Whatever the question was, he could not pluck up the courage and dashed into the hall. Wait, Jack! But I wouldn't let it end there. I followed and cried his name, and to my surprise, he stopped. What is it? I wish to talk with him more, see what he's really like. But what can I say to ensure I said nothing ill of his background again. Oh, fuck, don't make me choose. Various ideas slipped through, till I recalled the notes he'd written in class he didn't. Now that can work! Jack, if it's no trouble to you, I have a thought. How would you feel about exchanging letters? Huh? I had him more puzzled than I'd ever seen him. Why would I want to do that? Because... What should my response be? I want to get to know you better? I don't know. Oh! Oh! Oh. Okay. I want to get to know you. Me? Yes, you. What little I know about you is so darling that I wish to know more. I'm sorry, I just threw up in my mouth a little. What little I know about you is so darling. I want to know more. Oh. So awkward. I wish to know what kind of a person you are, what your favorite things are, what skills you take pride in, anything you feel at liberty to speak of. And if you could ask the same things of me, then that would be just wonderful. So, you see, I wish to be your friend. You aren't afraid. Do you not find me a nasty sort? Not at all. Why would I? No reason. Jack looked away with a similar discomfort to before. And I noticed how quick you were taking your notes. Exchanging letters would be much more convenient for you than all this directness, wouldn't it? I've never written one for. That's all right. You ought to write anything that comes to mind. I shuffled around for the stationery in my bag. Would you wait for me? I won't be more than a minute. If you want. Since it's our first one, I should reintroduce myself. My pen worked with an elegant scritch, scritch, scritch as I hurried to fill a page. For the end, I know. You'll need to change those bandages often if you want your injuries to heal. Sign my name here and... Finished. Oh my god, how fucking adorable is our letters. As our stationery, like. I blew at the ink to ensure it was dry before folding the letter and storing it in a pretty envelope. Would it be faster to chat than do all this? Perhaps, but then what would be the point in exchanging letters? And that's to be my own problem now. Why'd you even bother carrying those things around? My stationery? It's Pendleton, my butler. He instructed I carry them in case I need to write an emergency letter. Letters? For emergencies? Well then. Jack's expression was too complex for me to read it fully. I continued regardless. I'm looking forward to your reply. You must write one now, all right? You've an odd mind for a noble woman. Do you know that? Do you really think so? I know so. I don't know another one who loves to pop in and meddle the way you do. Meddling, he called it. Meddling made it sound so trite. And how could a budding friendship be anything but grand? I could not tell if Jack understood me sincere or too headstrong to challenge, or both. But that he accepted my letter was enough for me to end the day a happy girl. This is like weird. The happy girl awaited his reply. Waited until she became quite saddened. It's already been a few days. He must not have liked the idea. My sighs were heavy as I entered the academy for the day. I've made several attempts to speak with him in a friendly manner since then. Each time he would respond to my proddings with the same brevity he expressed to the world before we met. We were a splendid failure in communication, he and I. He said nothing about the letter when I asked. I hope he hasn't thrown it away. My gloom was building when my eyes wandered to the courtyard from the hallway. What? I could see a familiar nest of hair. Is that Jack? It was certainly him. He was alone, sitting at the base of a massive oak tree. What is he doing there so early in the morning? My curiosity, as it so often did, possessed me, and before I was aware of it, I'd run to greet him. The courtyard was silent in the morning, but welcomingly so, with plant life green and sweetly looked after by those charged with tending to it. I was always energized by the scent of freshly cut gardens, and I felt as much refreshment here with each new breath. I never knew the courtyard was so peaceful in the morning. What a lovely place to relax. Does he study here in secret, perhaps? I quietly approached to keep from disturbing him. The bags under his eyes, like he's so fucking like... Okay, he's snoring. I'm not going to do that. There were no books or such spread before him, so he wasn't studying as I first suspected. Judging by his posture, rather, he simply fell asleep while deep in thought. Because he's up all night murdering people. You can sleep anywhere, can't you, Jack? Then he must have been up all night studying. I should follow his example. He's up all night murdering people. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But you're like, oh, he's a jerk. What the fuck is this? Because all you see is this giant eye, like, it looks like she's gonna fucking murder him. He's the murderer, and she's the one I'm more afraid of. What the actual fuck? Because you can't see her nose. It's like, some kind of evil fucking monster. Oh God. Okay. Okay, that's less disturbing. Still disturbing, but far less disturbing. He only stirred once I was close. With timing so apt, I had to wonder if he knew I was there, even in sleep, probably. Good morning to you, Jack. Oh, it's you. He blinked away the sleep a few times before speaking in a tired voice. Did I wake you? Only 'cause your footsteps stands out a fair bit. Am I really so loud? I didn't mean to be. Don't mind it. I was about to head to the classroom, as it were. What he said was to the point, as if he didn't care to say anything more than necessary. And this, I'd come to discover, was not an act in dismissal so much as it was in keeping with his personality. What brings you here? I happened to spy you on the way to class and, well, I had to wonder what you were doing. It's the first time I've been here in the morning. You must be here for all the nice and quiet. I guess. Aren't a lot of people around, and I reckon that lets me sleep well. I knew it. He was here to sleep. Jack kept still. He made no effort to continue the flow of conversation. Right, nearly forgot. I should ask him about the letter. Don't do it. You just look like an asshole. Jack, about the... Here. What? He handed me something white before I could properly ask, but upon sight of what it was, perhaps I didn't need to ask. The letter. I knew he was going to. This is my handkerchief, isn't it? To be certain, it was the one I had lent him during our pharmacology lesson. It came accompanied by a small, lightly wrinkled envelope. My heart was very suddenly alight. Oh, so adorable. We're exchanging letters, guys. Is your heart fluttering? Sadly, I smiled a little bit, like, oh, it's a little cute. Like, I want to make fun of it, like, oh my God, this is so stupid, but it's actually like, it's only because I find it adorable. Like, oh my God, this is so dumb. As I grin and I'm a little blood, like my face hurts a little. It's so stupid, it's cute. You wrote a letter for me? I couldn't come up with food I like or special hobbies like you. I said to write whatever come to mind, so I just went with no particular thought. Jack looked away to indicate he had nothing more to say on the subject. Even still, I could not have been more thrilled. He wrote to me. Oh, it was indeed such a thrill to know he wrote to me. Thank you. Thank you ever so much. I am off to the classroom. Oh, Jack! And then he left the area faster than I'd ever seen him move. Now to see what kind of letter he wrote. I set about reading it with earnest. There we are. Dear Spacey Whitley. Copyright scene. Thank you for the handkerchief. If it's no trouble, please give me your letters when there aren't any people around. Oh, now I'm reading. I didn't intend to take so long writing this. I shall try to be quick on the next one. Sorry. Signed, Jack Millers. The ink from the last part looked a bit different to the rest. Penned a little later, perhaps. I wonder how long he's wanted to give this to me. Was he too embarrassed with our schoolmates around? I slipped the letter back into its envelope and placed it and the handkerchief delicately into my pocket. I'm so pleased to have a reply. And now to think of what to write next. I love the fact that we're pen pals. It's like, can't we just talk to each other? Like, using our mouths and shit. And she's like, no, we should write to each other and make it weird. I like it. I find it kind of adorable. Stupid, but adorable. I only say stupid because I'm like, why are we writing? It's cute. It's fucking cute. Okay, it's cute. Okay, it's cute. A burst of energy clipped my heels as I skipped to the classroom. Jack and I would come to routinely exchange these letters, making me, as I hoped, a happy girl each time. This is as good a place as any to end it. So anyway, I'm going to wrap this part up here. Boop. Nope. There we go. Anyway, I hate this. Look, we have to keep skipping. Anyway. Oh, well, that's too far down. There we go. Anyway, so yeah. I'm going to wrap this part up here. I will see you guys next time. Remember to give the video a big thumbs up and subscribe to see more.